Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined by football analyst William Gardner. Happy Easter out there to everybody. William, we're going to break down Colorado's 2025 spring game today. Not a ton of fireworks, but, as I was reflecting on it and rewatching it on the broadcast this morning, there were a lot more positives I felt like to take away from yesterday. And a lot of people want to see a finished product in the spring game. That just is not realistic. That's not the team you're going to see when they kick off against Georgia Tech.
Well, okay, first of all, I got the fan off, so everybody that was had problems with the fan, we'll see if it works better now with it off. But I can't see how anybody would find a negative. I guess it's like Prime said several times, you're going against yourself. So I don't know if one side looks good and the other side doesn't. What does that mean? Doesn't tell you anything really. I don't know what negatives would you take from yesterday. I didn't really see any. I don't suppose. I think we need help at running back, and we clearly need to figure out. They're going to have to pick one of these quarterbacks and go with them, and I don't know. It looks like we're going to have a damn good defense. I mean, it was an exciting day and lots of positive things happened. And I don't know. It's April. What do you want?
Well, that was maybe my biggest takeaway is maybe the second string defense is better than Colorado's second team offense at this point.
Yeah, I think the defense all the way around is looking pretty good and pretty salty, and I think there's been some development there this spring. And I think what we really want to look at is overall for the spring. What have we learned, and what do we take away from all this? I don't know that yesterday, in and of itself, means anything. Frankly, it's one day. It's anyone. The thing about a spring. Well, any spring or in season, any one practice or any one day doesn't necessarily mean anything. Even a game day, you can get blown out by a team one week and still finish with 11 wins. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the big takeaway also is that ESPN2 was there, national broadcast. Holly Rowe was there, sideline. My wife got a chance to meet her. She was pretty excited. My wife was doing photos for BuffStampede.com yesterday. Little over 20,000 fans in attendance. Coach Prime wants more, but again, from a historical perspective at Colorado, that's a hell of a crowd for a spring game. Decent weather. Jersey retirements, a Bulov walk-on, gets placed on scholarship. I think a lot of the stuff that people would generally navigate towards a negative path would be just that they think that the football team needs to be a finished product at this point. And that's always been kind of the problem with televising spring games is that the perception might get thrown off. But, hey, I mean, we've seen over-unders, I think, get kind of like placed in Vegas based on some of these spring game performances, and they always go under. Colorado hits the portal hard enough. They had so many guys that were injured in this football game, and you saw some young talent really stepping up to the plate.
Well, what would a finished product look like in spring? I mean, it's still us going against us, so, what is it that we didn't see?
It's unrealistic. I'm saying that's what some people think when they tune into ESPN2.
But what is it exactly that they would want to see that would be that? I mean, I don't understand. It's like you got us going against us. So let's say the offense ran up 400 yards and 50 points. Well, doesn't that mean the defense is no good? I mean, I don't see what you can see going against each other that would give you that sense of perfection. You know what I mean? And that's one of the values of having another team come in, because now you get an actual measuring stick.
Yeah. I think the cleanliness of just the scrimmage action in general is what you'd be thriving for. But when you've got a lot of moving pieces, guys that are injured getting moved out of the lineup, that's not going to be the cohesive group you're going to see there as a starting 11 on offense and defense when the season starts out. That's what I'm saying is that maybe that there's overreactions to it based on thinking that these are two teams with their best units going head to head. No, it's like a practice. And if you haven't been to a college practice and you just tune into a spring game on your TV, that's what's going to happen, I think.
Well, I also think that even when the season starts, teams aren't polished and ready to go. I mean, the old adage is that you make your most improvement from game 1 to game 2, because you actually see yourself against someone else and you know what you need to work on. So even when teams start game 1, they're generally not a polished, finished product. I mean, as the season goes on, you presumably get better as a team if you're well coached. So I don't know. It's a practice. It's an inter squad practice in April. Take it for what it is.
And none of those are my thoughts. I'm just reacting to
No. Yeah.
some of the stuff that's sent to me on social media. Like I'm glad that you're co-signing the fact that this is unrealistic to think that you're going to tune into a spring game and see something much different than what you did yesterday. Did you have another thought there? I was going to get into the injuries next in terms of guys that didn't play.
I think if you did have, and I think if you did have an external team come in and play, that you would have better performance, because it's just human nature that going against each other, you're not going to. There's a subconscious, I guess, level of effort that you're going to put in against another team that you're not going to put in against your own teammates. And so that's another reason to have external teams come in. It's an added motivation, and you can actually judge what you're looking at. Then the question got to be is, well, is Syracuse any good? I don't know. So, but yeah, I think there were so many guys out with injuries this whole spring that that prevents us from having a idea of exactly what we're going to have this fall. But also, so many guys were new. That whole offensive line, for the most part. Well, yeah, everybody, the whole offensive line was new except for Jordan Seaton, right? And then Tyler Brown played with the twos, but so you're putting together a whole new offensive line. You ain't going to get there in 15 practices. Newsflash.
Yeah. We're going to get your thoughts on the O-line. I'm going to run through the guys that were on scholarship injured yesterday. Running backs Michael Welch and Charlie Offerdahl. Receiver Omarion Miller. Offensive lineman Philip Houston, Kareem Harden. Aki Ogunbiyi, and Jay Gardenhire. Before I finish with the defense here. First off, Aki Ogunbiyi, he didn't wear pads yesterday, but just seeing him with his jersey over just his regular body, like that dude looked like he had pads on. He is a ginormous human being.
Right. Well, and that's what a fourth and fifth year P4 offensive lineman should look like, and that's what we're going to have all the way across the board this fall that we haven't had in quite a while.
Yeah, and then Jay Gardenhire didn't take a whole lot of time. I think it was within a couple hours of the spring game ending that he hit the transfer portal. He was a developmental piece. We talked about that, William. Like I know you kind of look for some of the positives in these guys, but this wasn't a guy that was going to get on the field for the Buffaloes anytime soon, probably.
Yeah, and really, you look at he's recruited by the offensive line coach that's not here anymore, and it makes sense that he's gone. I think he was never a guy. He was never a guy that I really thought was going to be a significant player at this level. I just don't think he's got the athleticism. I think sometimes the coaches get not carried away, but enamored with that kind of a size, right? And then he just doesn't. I watched him walk around in practices and stuff, and he just doesn't seem to have the flexibility and the mobility to me. Now, the other guy along those lines who I didn't expect to be much of a player and who kind of impressed me this spring was Verta Shelby, because I didn't think he was going to be a guy. And then he played the whole 4 weeks as the backup left tackle to Jordan Seaton. Now, I don't even want to say it. They're invited. But if we had to go to somebody else, would it be Verta Shelby? I don't know. God forbid, please, Jesus, let's not ever find out. But he's a young guy that impressed me with his play, and he showed he clearly had the athleticism, and he's 6'8" and 310. Now he just needs to get a little more nasty in him. The other guy, and I guess I'm going to go into a little bit of the offensive line right now. The other guy that really changed I wouldn't say changed my view, but really impressed me with the improvement he's made is Zach Owens. I'd say he's the most improved lineman on this team coming out of this spring. because he's changed his body and he's changed his play, and he was just he looked good once they settled him in. They tried him at right tackle and he just didn't quite fit there, but then they got him in there at left guard, and that's a home for him, I think.
And Jordan Seaton, his eyes lit up when he was asked about Zach Owens in the post spring game press conference, talking about how he really stood up to the challenge of losing that weight. And he said that was the only thing really holding him back.
Yeah.
You know, was
4-star guy that was recruited by everybody. I mean, he's, every bit the same kind of guy as a Gooden or a Carday Smith or whatever. And, he lost that weight. And I think when you lose that kind of weight, it proves to everybody that you're dedicated to the sport, but his talent's beyond question. And I saw that interview with Seaton and his face got lit up and he said, we're going to road grade people, or I think is what he said, or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Jordan Seaton's great in those settings, isn't he?
He's so mature and he's so calm, and he doesn't get carried. See, now you put me in that, well, everybody sees me, you know how I am. That kid's got more maturity than I do. 3 times his age, 3 times his age. I'd do the math there 3 times. I was like, didn't want to overstate myself, but I think he's just an impressive young man, and I loved what he had to say. If we go on a little segue there, I love what he had to say about. He said we should get, it's great that we get paid for what we do and everything else, but people take advantage of it and hold teams hostage, and that's not right. And so I thought that was very insightful from him, and also speaks, I think, to his relationship with Coach Prime. And I know people said, well, more people haven't jumped in the portal for us, but I think that one of the things people lose sight of, everybody's like, oh, just hand a bag. Well, it ain't just a bag, man. It's like recruiting still matters, and having a relationship with your team still matters. And Coach Prime does that with all of his guys. And so a lot of these guys realize they have more at CU than they might get somewhere else, even if they got a little more money. So that all plays a part in it to me.
And Jordan talked about Arden Walker being a guy that he really respects on defense. And, Arden got him one time on Saturday, but I thought Jordan, after that, had a really nice spring game.
Yeah, they all, I think there was a lot of positive. Jordan Seaton's going to be one of the best left tackles in the country this year. There's no question about it. And I like that he also recognized, he said, there's some technique stuff I got to get fixed, and it will get fixed. And he knows that, and that's shouldn't be a big surprise to anybody. I think, if you follow offensive line, especially as they go into the draft, I think it's always amused me that you get these 5th-year guys coming out of college, right, and they're all Americans, whatever, and they go to the draft, and what's the draft breakdown? Needs to work on his technique. I mean, that's just the way it is, man. David Bakhtiari did not become best tackle in the NFL until after he got there. Nate Solder had the freakish, skills and measurements and everything, but it wasn't until he perfected those technique skills, a few years into the NFL. So don't take it as a negative to Jordan that he doesn't have the technique down. It just takes years to get there.
Yeah. And then defensively, injury-wise, they were without scholarship guys. Defensive lineman Torian Carter and Amari McNeil, edge player Samuel Okunlola and Keaton Wade, and defensive backs Preston Hodge and Colton Hood. You're talking about 1, 2, 3, 4 starters and maybe more, and at least 2 other big-time contributors defensively.
Every single guy you name there is important to this defense and had big plays last year. Every single one of them. So,
and
it's spring, so you're not going to, some of those guys might have played yesterday if it had been an actual game. There's no point to exacerbate any kind of injury, no matter how minor, for a spring practice or spring game. So a lot of those guys were not so hurt that they would be sitting out in fall, but. Plus the other thing is like a Amari McNeil doesn't necessarily need the reps in practice, whereas, we can get it to some other guys, but we get all those guys back and I think you're going to have a pretty good team.
Yeah. Today's episode is brought to us by Macaulay Capital Fractional CFO Services. Is your business looking for financial guidance and support but not yet big enough to hire a full-time CFO? Well, we have a solution for you. Hiring a fractional CFO who can work with your business on a part-time basis. You get the benefit of having a seasoned financial expert on your team without the commitment or expense of a full-time hire. And here's the best part. It's likely that a partnership with Macaulay Capital will be a win-win situation, meaning that your business will make more money from the guidance of a fractional CFO than the total cost of partnering with us. For more information or to set up a meeting, please visit MacaulayCapital.com. That's MCCAULEY Capital.com. William, everybody that listens to our podcast knows that we love the Hungry Toad. They've been bringing a taste of England to Boulder since 1991. At the Hungry Toad, they serve up hearty homemade fare from their scratch kitchen paired with a brilliant selection of British beers. They're the perfect spot for friends and family to gather, relax, and enjoy the warm, welcoming atmosphere. If you're mad for football, so are they. Whether it's the American gridiron or European footy, they proudly support CU football and CU women's soccer. The Hungry Toad, Boulder's local pub that's not on Pearl Street. Head to 2543 Broadway in Boulder.
And you know what? Hans Serrata don't take no whoopings either. He hands them out. How's that for a second?
I love it. I love it. You talked about the O-line. Anything to add there? You had Yaya Atia taking backup snaps at center, or second string snaps at center. Zary McGill with the first team. Go ahead.
I guess the interesting thing is not necessarily with the play of the offensive line in the scrimmage, but what Coach Prime said afterwards in his shopping list for players, that he mentioned getting 2 more centers.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how to take that except to say that he's not satisfied with what he got. I mean, do you think I'm wrong on that? I don't know. Maybe I'm overreading it.
I think that Coach Prime and this staff, they are of the mind that we can like something, but we want to continue to push those guys and more. And I think it's more about that. Now, there's some positions like running back and safety that, well, safety, you need depth. Running back, you need like an elite guy. I think, you've seen too on the O-line too, where like the last couple of years, you bring in some guys and like it's like a 50-50 hit rate on some of those offensive linemen you bring in. So the more you can bring in, the better odds you give yourself, with that. So that's kind of how I see things. Linebacker, I thought Martavius French looked good, but he said they're going to bring in 2 linebackers, right?
I think, yeah, I wrote that down because it really struck me, and let me go back and see what he said. He said, one tremendous defensive tackle, and I got to ask myself if they don't already have that guy. Just wondering, maybe not. And he said another linebacker or 2, so 1 for sure.
Okay.
2 safeties, 3 corners. So he recognized what you and I talked about last week, which is we need a lot more bodies in that secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watched his Coach Prime's interview after the thing, he was very, very ebullient, almost very positive about the front 7, and he said we got to get better on the back end. So he said 1 receiver that's a grown man. He said a couple running backs, and I think running back is likely to single. Well, aside from the defensive back, we need more running backs, man. We need a number 1 because we don't have one right now. And then he says a tight end, a guard, a tackle, maybe 2 centers. So the point is they're going shopping, and I think like you said, maybe they didn't like McGill, maybe they didn't like Atia, but neither one's ready to be an All-American. So if you can get something better, you get something better. Nobody on that line aside from Jordan Seaton has proven their level yet. I think Zach Owens is going to do that this year. What
a beautiful luxury to have as Colorado, that you can build on a roster that's pretty talented and be able to go into the summer with, I think they were talking about somewhere around 15 extra pieces to add to the mix, and not all 15, or if they sign more or less, like are going to pan out, but you're going to have enough that you're going to be able to fill in those gaps. Like I feel like they could go out, William, if they didn't add another transfer right now. I feel like they'd still be a bowl team in 2025, but you're trying to reach that next level.
Right. They want those 10 wins. They want the playoffs. They want the conference championship. And, Coach Prime's always going to be a highly competitive guy who wants to go get better every single year. And so I think it's going to be an exciting few weeks in the portal for us to get guys in. Frankly, I guess it could go all the way till August, but I think they're going to be looking for guys that can really step in. I think there are some guys that really stepped up this spring. I think that who was it that Coach Prime was talking about?
Quincy Wiggins,
Jaheim Otis, maybe. He was saying really came into his own. There was somebody, not Wiggins, but there was somebody else that he mentioned really is going to break out this year, and I think I might have
Quincy Wiggins. No.
Well, Wiggins that was a different conversation where he had with Wiggins, and he talked about him having the green dot, which I'm not sure if people really understand how important that is. The green dot is the guy that's going to be able to hear the coaches on the field, and almost always you would give that to a middle linebacker or maybe a free or a strong safety who can see everybody and put everybody in place. And Quincy Wiggins, who first of all hasn't played much so far, and secondly is traditionally would be a hand in the ground guy. Him having the green dot, first of all, suggests that they see him as a starter, but it also suggests to me that he's not just going to be a hand in the dirt edge guy, that they may use him in some hybrid situations where he's standing up. And if you saw that interview, or not the interview, but the clip where he's talking to Coach Prime on the field, my God, he looks fantastic.
Yeah.
They list him at 6'6" and 260. And boy, just by the eyeball, I'd say 6'7", 280, and not fat. I mean, he's a lean dude and he looks good. So if he's a guy, and he's another one of those guys, just like Zach Owens, who was a 4-star, highly recruited, went to LSU. And if that guy gets the on switch, man, he's a draft pick.
Yeah.
Different.
And I think you've seen Coach Prime see that potential in him, and that's why he's trying to pull it out of him so hard.
Yeah. And he talked, Coach Prime talked about, I'm on him about class. I'm on him about, doing this. I'm on him about that. And it's kind of like being a dad and watching every move he makes, because he cares about the kid and wants to see him achieve that sort of thing. So I think that Jaheim Otis, I think, had a good spring. I think that Quincy Wiggins had a really good spring. I think Zach Owens had a good spring. And that's not to say that other guys did not. Those are the kind of ones that really jumped out at me as having a huge jump in their play. I think Yaya Atia had a really good spring and built on some stuff. I thought that Tawfiq Thomas had a good spring. Tavian, all those defensive linemen, I think, really did well. I'm just trying to look through some of the names here and see. Oh, Zy Chrysler settled into that right guard spot, I feel like, the last 2 weeks. And, everybody raved about him. So that's another one on the offensive line. I hesitate to ever anymore say we're going to have a good offensive line, because it's never come true for 12, 15 years. But you look at those guys up front and they still want to bring in more, and they added Xavier Hill and what have you. I think from what I saw in spring, people are going to have a hard time moving Zy Chrysler and Zach Owens out of those two guard spots.
Okay. All right. That's good news going into the summer, I think, for that offensive line. I've got some notes on. We're going to get through yours too, William, and then we've got so much more to go through. I think we can go position by position maybe next week and really kind of digest a little bit more of it and keep going as we go through the summer.
Give the week, give a week to see who sticks around, who doesn't stick around, whatever, and have a little live with it a little bit, ruminate.
I think most of them have hit the portal by now, but you never know. I mean, and there have been some surprises there.
I think, there've been some surprises, but not that surprising. I think, if Quincy Wiggins, Quincy Wiggins coming out like this really makes Taji McCoy leaving make sense to me, because they're entirely different players.
And London Merritt too, right? He got some reps yesterday.
Right. There's another one. London Merritt playing with the ones and looked really good too. And I've also heard really good things about Alexander McPherson, and so I guess it doesn't surprise me too much. And plus McCoy went back home to Oklahoma City, which is where he's from. So that's not too, I don't know, maybe he just want to go home. I don't know. Sometimes people make more out of things than they are. They're still just young men, but
it's a bummer though, because we were big fans of Tajay McCoy, and you saw the development. You were kind of anxious to see that manifests itself in him being one of the more disruptive pass rushers in the Big 12, which I think he's going to be. And now, unfortunately, this is not a knock on him. He's from Oklahoma, but that is the bummer of the portal at times.
But I think that's the thing that could have happened even before the portal. Guys went home before. It's not like it's new. But I still think Tajay McCoy is going to be a 10 sack in a year guy before all said and done. So we'll miss him. But at the end of the day, guys make their choices and they go where they go, and that's that. And I cheer for this logo, and when you go put on a different logo, I don't cheer for you anymore.
Fair enough. Yeah. Liked Isaiah Harge's turn up the field when he got that third down catch near the red zone and cut up the field quickly. Joseph Williams showed up well in that game. I'm telling you, William, he would have scored a touchdown. He got a pass from Salter about the 14-yard line with 2:53 left in the first half. Ivan Yates, the cornerback, just completely outran the play, but was able to get a hand on him. And since the receivers were not, tackled to the ground in that scrimmage, they called it dead. But he would have scored a touchdown there. The next play, Salter throws it up, and Williams almost came down with it in the end zone. That would have been a tough catch. And he had some impressive catches during 7-on-7s, 2 touchdowns. I'm trying to think of who else stood out offensively. Joseph Williams, I saw some flashes from him, and he's still kind of working with that second group, though.
Yeah. Well, and I think him and you put him and Sincere Brown out there, man, and you got a problem for some defenses.
Yeah,
because most defensive backs are not going to be able to handle guys that big, and if you put 2 of them out there at once, but so I think that was he's certainly looked good, and there were some tight ends got some catches, and
Zach Atkins could have had a touchdown catch. That was maybe Caden Salter's worst throw of the day, just from you got 7 points right there based on the play call.
Yeah,
that would drive you nuts as an OC, wouldn't it?
Yeah, well, that's the kind of things where it doesn't at the end of the day it doesn't matter. It is what it is. But then you need those players to make those plays. I'm still concerned about the running backs.
Yeah.
And I don't think this, I'm not sure that the coach, I think the coach has spent this 4 weeks kind of looking at their personnel, and they're going to go back and tweak this offense and figure out what they want to do specifically. But there's more growth to be had on this offense. And I think, I'm sure a lot of people are like, oh, our offense is no good. Well, I think our defense is damn good, and so, struggling against those guys is we're not going to be the only offense that has a hard time with our defense.
There were a lot of guys. Tafiq Bayard, Martavius French, who I mentioned, TJ Branch, a freshman, flashed. More love for the defensive line from Coach Prime. We talked about Merritt and Wiggins getting time with the first team defense. Going back to the running backs, I think I still like Brandon Hood over Dalen Hayden. Now, Hayden did have that 26-yard run in the second half, and during the late goal line stuff they were doing, I mean, I was impressed. Dalen Hayden looks like a more determined running back. There were a couple guys that could have gotten him down, and he got around there. But Brandon Hood, just to watch his pad level when he gets near contact, he gets a couple extra yards, and I think I prefer him. But I don't know if those guys are going to be 1 or 2 on the depth chart come the season opener.
Hood and Welch are just different running backs than Hayden entirely, and I think clearly down there on the goal line, you're going to want Micah Welch when he's healthy in there, because he's kind of like a little Volkswagen. But I just really think we need to find another guy, if not two guys, in the portal. Both to find the no-brainer starter, but also like you've said before, is like they take a lot of hits.
Mhm.
Have some quality depth in there, and I'm not comfortable just going into the season with the four we got. I think a lot of people expect, and I wouldn't be surprised if this happens. I think a lot of people expect Michael Wells to really come into his own and actually be a really good player. But right now, there's not any of them that stepped up enough for me to be super comfortable with it.
And we'll see how that transpires. We'll get back in the transfer portal discussion a little bit later.
Yeah.
Julian Lewis, as I said on the broadcast, looked like he should still be in high school at times. I said it with Brian before watching that broadcast. But that pass that he had to Cam Michael for a touchdown during 7-ons, and 7-ons are totally tailored to the offense. It's a totally different beast. But the way he thread that needle, I mean, that was a nice pass in there. And there were some moments on Saturday where you saw that potential and the reason that Julian Lewis was as highly regarded as he is. But I mean, again, he's just so young, William.
Yeah. He's supposed to be a junior in high school right now, right?
He is. Yeah.
Yeah. People got to give a kid a little time to grow up a little bit, I think. But I think he showed enough to know why he's there, and also showed enough to know why we brought in Caden Salter.
Yeah. Good point. Buck Buchanan is not Mason Crosby, but he's got the strongest leg I've seen since Mason. Like, that's not a comparison, like in terms of accuracy, just leg strength. That kid has got a leg for a weapon.
Yeah, and so that'll come into play, and they'll make some decisions in particular situations and games. But he gives you a lot farther range out there to go ahead and get a couple of points. Hopefully, when you stall farther out in the field.
Thought those were a couple of bogus PI calls on DJ McKinney in that game. They missed another PI late that actually should have been called on the defense during the 7-on-7 stuff, I think. But I thought DJ McKinney was like, come on, the officials are maybe in spring mode as well. They got to gear up for this season.
And I know we got, you look at, so Preston Hodge would be our nickel, and I think now we go 4 deep at the corners with McKinney and Hood and Johnson. We add Tion Parks.
Yeah,
probably more guys still to come. I think Johnson could help us at safety. I don't know how serious the heart issue is with Vickers, whether he'll be back.
They say that he's going to be back for camp, and they've talked about him actually being a potential safety option for them.
Yeah. So, I think Tawfiq Bayard, not Tawfiq Thomas, in the secondary, it shows some things. Antonio Brandt shows some things. I think I don't know. I don't know. I'm not good enough at evaluating defensive backs to know if Finiseth is really a good power 4 safety or not. But he certainly seems like he does everything the right way. He's not going to have the speed clearly, but he doesn't make any mistakes, and sometimes that's more important.
Well, yesterday, I think if Hodge was healthy, you would have had Carter on the back end, and Ben would have been running 2s. But him being placed on scholarship was really cool, and a long time coming. Maybe I know that people look at what guys do offensively, defensively, but on special teams, I just enjoyed watching his effort last season. It was a pure joy on those kickoff coverage teams. That this is a man, and this is something that Coach Prime said is just even in the locker room at practice that just you don't see a frown on the guy's face ever, and that's infectious. You want friends that are positive, and teammates, coworkers that are positive, and it really raises your level too, right? And I think that's one of many reasons that Ben was placed on scholarship.
That's why nobody wants to work with my grumpy ass, So, but then
that's not true.
All you football hating, kicker loving people wrecked kickoff coverage for the rest of us with this guy that can kick off deep into the end zone. Hope you're happy. Go ahead. Thanks. Love it. No more seeing guys get trucked
Well, when I asked Coach Prime late last season if he was proud of his kickoff coverage teams, and he just was like, "No, I want to kick the ball into the end zone like the other teams do against us." And I was like, "Okay, that's his stance on this. It's as long as he's in Boulder now, he's going to have a strong-legged kicker to get that done because I don't think he likes that." Just indecision of how things might play out. And, in terms of a momentum thing, William, that's the part of like, even if you only break a few long returns on punt returns or kickoff returns in those games, usually those moments are such momentum changers that I think
Yeah.
that you don't want to mess around with that too much. As much as we
Well,
loved seeing, those guys go down there and break heads last year.
there are a few plays that are more momentum changing and than a blocked punt, and next a punt or kickoff return for a touchdown, because you change the field. You just you immediately you change the field, and the other team is down in scoring position and what have you. So they are a big damn deal. But I don't know. I guess I look at it differently. When I coached, I always coached the coverage teams, but I didn't coach the kicker, right? So my job was get the damn thing covered wherever the damn soccer guy kicked it, right? Now that being said, my last year I coached, my nose guard was our kicker, so I could count on him to go down there and lay a body on somebody too. So I don't know. I understand where people are coming from, but I think we saw a lot of positive things this spring. I think we saw, from a football perspective, like you said, I think just what we had out there so far, without adding anything to it, as a bowl team for sure. And I think we saw, before and during spring, and this last year, I think if we want to stop right now and talk about in this last year, we've seen a lot, at least two of the big questions and outside problems with Coach Prime answered. Number one, yes, he can win. He's a good coach. Okay. And number two, he ain't going nowhere. So, I'm not sure what they're going to make up this fall with Shedeur gone, and a new contract signed and 9 wins under our belt. I'm not sure what the silly national media is going to find to complain about this summer, but probably something.
Oh, yes, there will be something. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. I have come to the realization that is part of life now, unfortunately.
Yeah, and there are certain, Deion Sanders is a very confident, outspoken man, and some people just don't like that and got to take shots at it, and that's fine. That they got to do what they got to do, I guess. But along those lines, I thought that the ceremonies and such yesterday were in good taste and were classy, and everything went well. And that's a tempest in a teapot. That'll now settle down and go away. But
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I guess we could talk about it if you want to, but I think, Travis Hunter's a no-brainer. We're not Southern Cal or Notre Dame that we got multiple Heisman Trophy winners, right? We got 2, and he belongs up there. Period. Probably should have retired his number the minute he walked up and got the Heisman Trophy. But Shedeur's more controversial, I guess, to some people. Doesn't really matter to me too much. I don't care. Don't make no difference as far as how the team goes. I think he certainly played well. I think other guys should have been honored in some way before this, but there's no reason not to honor him because previous coaches or ADs didn't do what they should have. So I don't know. To me, it's a no-brainer, or it's a non-issue, and let's move on from it.
Yeah, I think a lot of the outrage was just kind of the shock of the timing because people weren't expecting it. I thought Coach Prime gave a good explanation in terms of I'm not in the mindset of waiting too long because you never know. Not that Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders are anywhere near the end of their lives. They've got many more great things to accomplish, but like, why are we waiting? And that part of it I kind of got with. What I didn't like about the timing, and William, this was my only criticism about the whole thing, is just knowing the pushback that was coming and going, maybe if you did it in the fall and you did some kind of alumni event, you could kind of curb some of the, I don't know, Yeah, I just didn't want there to be any negativity towards a jersey ceremony
Well,
like
I
that.
think I think and I'm going to say it because that's who I am, man. The only one reason why this is controversial, and that's because of Shador's last name. If Shador was named Williams or Gardner, if it was Shador Gardner, nobody would give a damn. Everybody would be like, man, that guy's a great quarterback, and there would be no controversy about the guy. But because it's the last name is Sanders and his dad's the coach, it's go, I every time we've ever had a kid on the team whose dad was the head coach, you hear the things, oh, nepotism, this, nepotism, that, and it's all kind of silly. But I am 100% convinced that if Shador had a different last name, nobody would have a problem with him or with anything else.
Yeah, there could have been some tweaks to go, I think, along this process to make it to where it wasn't as controversial. But what actually transpired at Folsom Field, with the weather subsiding and the sun coming out, and to see those guys down on the field and have ESPN2 in the building, these were things you dreamed about as a Colorado fan a few years ago, and it didn't even seem like a possibility. So, I think sometimes we're kind of in the recency bias of like, let's overreact to something versus like, okay, let's take a step back, remember where this program was, and we try to avoid that because it frustrates some people when we just keep going back to parts of the history of Colorado that's not pleasant. But sometimes you need to put it into perspective in a situation like this to go, just appreciate it, and
I think everybody's got everybody's entitled to have their opinion of who they think is great and who they don't think is not. I don't care. To me, Darian Hagan will always be the best quarterback that ever played at Colorado. Now, he's not going to play in the NFL as a quarterback, okay? And certainly he doesn't have the passing skills that Shador has, but there's a lot more to a quarterback than just throwing the ball and setting passing records, right? And that doesn't take away from Shador. And I think Cordell Stewart was the second best, and I think Shador would be number 3, and so some people will say, well, you're putting down Shador. I'm really not. I don't know, just watching those 3 guys play, that's how it feels to me. It's not like I'm God putting it on granite, Everybody that's the beauty of the game, really, man. You look back at all the history of your favorite team, and there's lots of guys, who could be great. Like we did the during the COVID year, we did the Mount Rushmore of CU football, and it was hard, right? And it was a little bit controversial, and some people said, no, that's crazy. Who would say that guy? You got to pick this guy, And I don't know. That's the fun of it, isn't it? That's the fun of it.
Yeah.
So I was there and I saw Darian play and I saw Cordell play and I've seen Shador play and I love them all. I don't know. Is that all right? Is that okay?
Yeah. No, I think you're fine. And that's maybe we just want to focus on something rather than enjoying something at times as humans, and it's human nature. So I'm not blaming anybody, because my first reaction when I got that press release was like, whoa, what? I know what's going to happen as a response to this. It's too early from that standpoint. But yeah, I'm telling you, once you got to Folsom Field on Saturday, it was like everybody's going to do the right thing and really make this a special moment. Even though it wasn't a sold out crowd, it was still a pretty cool moment for both those guys. Bossman D-Lo was also in the building, a rapper. William, did you make his concert last night in Denver?
Well, yeah, I got on the stage. Did you see me? They pulled me up there.
I'm too old. I was in bed. Well, actually, no, last night I went to bed at 1 because of the spring game, but I was working pretty late. But no, I didn't get a chance to see up on stage. That's awesome.
No, yeah, I stand out in that crowd. But you want to talk about controversy, though? Look over your left shoulder up at your painting up there.
Yeah.
Over your left shoulder. Can you see it back there?
Yeah, right here. Left shoulder.
That first, imagine when they put Coach Prime's face in that first flat iron.
Right. This one right here. Where's he going?
No,
first flat iron's right there. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
By the way, my sister-in-law gave that to me as a Christmas present. Christine Bandman, if you want any type of artwork commissioned for you, I don't even know if you can really. If you think it looks okay, it looks way better in person. I can send you. Yeah, no, her artwork's great. She comes over every holiday and she's painting all these different things, and I'm just amazed at her talent. So I
She's
appreciate
your sister.
her.
Did you say sister or sister-in-law?
Sister-in-law. Yeah,
Well, her and Liz, man, they got some artistic talents.
they do. Their mother too, and she's crazy crafty, and yeah,
Yeah.
I married into a great family, so I'm very appreciative.
I got a soft spot for Liz because she knows me and she still likes me.
She does. She enjoys it. Yeah, it was great to have her out there because, like I mentioned, she got to meet Holly Rowe and be around, and it's great to share those moments. We've been through some things as a family in the last 12 months, and those moments, going out to New York for the Heisman and the spring game and stuff like that. I mean, it's like there's no price tag you can put on those type of memories. So not to get too sentimental here, but it makes it a lot more fun. And I'm fortunate that like I want my wife to come along with me to work. Obviously I've been in relationships before where I can't wait to get away and get to the stadium. And, so I'm very lucky there.
I think, I keep thinking, in the aftermath of Coach Prime signing his new contract and seeing what's going on in the portal and looking at this team in spring, man, we're all so lucky to have him here. I mean, he rises above just being a football coach in so many ways, and it's just a privilege to watch him with these kids and to watch him talk and to see what he's doing with this team. And I said at some point on the board last week, it's like, man, we ain't even seen nothing yet. It ain't even got rolling. Only just now like I said, only just now have we put to bed that he can't win, that he's not going to stay here, blah blah blah. And I can't wait to see the next 3 or 4 weeks what happens. When he says, half that grocery list we've already filled already, you just don't know about it. I'm like, ooh, Dad, can we open the presents? Can we open the presents?
Yes. You mentioned Tion Parks transferring in as a cornerback from Illinois State, receiver Sincere Brown from Campbell, and we talked about Xavier Hill, I think on our last show, transferring in from Memphis. I'm curious to get your take on this. Okay. So we know that, as you mentioned, Tajay McCoy is going to Oklahoma State. Safety Savion Riley is going to Georgia Tech. Receiver Adrian Wilson's going to North Carolina. Good luck keeping him on campus, Bill Belichick. His history's not very good as far as commitment goes. But lastly, running back Isaiah Augusta committed to Virginia. And Coach Prime was not shy in a video this past week talking about how Virginia had tampered with one of their players. Now we, I think, know who that is.
Yeah, pretty clear, obviously. And I don't know. I mean, what in this modern day and age, I guess I was going to say what is tampering, but we all know what it means. But it's sort of like the wild, wild west out there anyway. And one of the things I like about Coach Prime is that he doesn't play games. He got right on video, said, "Get the camera. Where's my camera? Don't do it again. We can let you have one. Don't do it again." And the stupidity of Virginia going after a guy. Could there be anybody on the team?
They went after Carter Stoudemire as well. Right. It sounds like, yeah.
He's known since he was a baby.
Yeah.
What the hell would you go after that guy for?
Kevin Mathis is his godfather.
Yeah, right. I mean, why not go after Shador? He won't tell. It's just stupid. But I don't know. I think it's a loss for us to lose Isaiah Augusta. I hope he does well. I think he does well. But for them to, I'm not sure. I guess tampering in the modern era means that they were contacting him before he's in the portal and offering him, and they had a deal or whatever.
I don't know if this was the same story, but Coach Prime also said at his press conference that there was a school so bold enough to create a contract for them before they had even hit the portal.
Yeah, I saw that. Right. I saw that.
I mean, if you got evidence of that, that's not going to be good for whatever I don't know if you want to start getting into turning in other programs. That's kind of maybe a slippery slope when it comes to like you got so much to deal with on a day to day. When you start policing other programs, that's tough. But if that happened, because we were all bummed out Isaiah Augusta left because again, just 1 year of watching him develop, it felt like a guy you really wanted to see what his ceiling was.
Yeah, but there's some good running backs in the portal, and I don't know if we're looking at any of them or talking to them, but I hope that we bring in a guy that's the number one guy. And I think it's just going to be fun to see who they bring in. It's like you said, it's interesting to see as much as we've built up the offensive line already, that he still wants to get 3 or 4 more. So and with what we've done on the defensive line, and as good as they look, and as much as he was excited about them this spring, he still wants to get another one. So that's what good coaches do. Is I remember my first year at CU. And that was 1983, and I still vividly remember this. That there was a highly recruited kid, and he was crying to the coach about he's not playing his defensive tackle and complaining to his position coach, and it was Gary Vanderlyn, who ended up being a head coach after he was at CU, and then and the kid's like, you said this and you said that, and I'm not playing, and the coach looked at him and said, that was recruiting, son. This is reality now. And a lot of things you hear on the recruiting trail are not necessarily going to be true, and at the end of the day, even if they are true, you still got to perform, and if you don't perform, you're not going to play. So it's always the job of a coach, assistant, or head coach to recruit good players and then go out the next year and try to get better players. And if you don't understand that, if you're a player and you don't get that, well, maybe that's not the game for you, man, because at every level they're going to be trying to replace you every single year.
Well, I got to go, William. You know why? Buffalo's just
Easter
picked up a new transfer commit.
Oh, nice.
Auburn safety transfer Terrence Love
Awesome.
is wait, no, okay.
Were you going to do an Easter egg hunt for the kids?
My wife's in charge of that. Yeah, a transfer from Auburn, 4-star coming out of high school, from Langston Hughes in Georgia, Terrence Love. So, as Coach Prime said, they're filling up those needs that they have in terms of their shopping list, like you mentioned. So, great show, William. Enjoyed breaking this down. We could probably go for a couple more hours if we just decided to go down everything. But we've got a long time till Colorado is back in action. These players are going to get in and finish their CU final exams. They're going to get a little break in the month of May. The Colorado staff is going to continue to recruit those prep recruits, bring in some more transfers. And so there's always stuff to talk about, but let's save some for the next show. Sound good?
Sound like a plan, my man.
All right, William, always appreciate you and appreciate everybody out there for tuning in.